Hey, welcome to Valerie's art class. I'm going to start from the basics. I want to give you some instructions today. On my table here, I have a puppy pad, which really is good for when you're doing acrylic pours or any kind of art creation. As you notice in this little painting, I did part of my background. I did a sky and I did some ground. I'm not quite finished with that. In this painting, I am going to do not an acrylic pour. I will do that on my second painting, but on this painting I'm going to do a background and a sky, and then I'm going to do a forest. That's going to be really unique to see. And then I have another canvas over here which I'm going to use in a different way to create the same forest, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I get finished. So let me get started. Okay, I've already done this little one, and I've done the green background and the blue sky. This paintbrush is going to be for the big one. All right, so I don't know exactly what I want to paint on that one yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on the background for my forest here. So I'm going to have some ground, and in the ground cover, if you remember looking out in a forest, there's a lot of sticks on the ground, and there's some grass growing through, but mostly it's brown because the sky doesn't really, or the sun doesn't really reach the ground when the forest is thick. So I'm going to start doing my background on this one, and as I go along I'll show you what I need. But before we get started on that, this is the brush I'm going to use for my background because it's a big one and I have a bigger canvas, so this will cover more space. Now when I go to do my trees, I'm going to use different brushes. I'm going to use a flat brush, as you can see. And I'm going to use a smaller flat brush as well. And then to do any of the details, like the real skinny branches on the tree, I will find me a detail brush like this, which is very tiny. Okay, that'll make my little tiny strokes. This will make my fatter strokes, and this will make my medium-sized strokes to create my trees. Now, if I was going to put leaves on my trees, which I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to do that or not, and the types of trees are also going to be a question. I might put one birch tree in there. I might put a pine tree in there. I might put a blue spruce pine tree in there. I'm not quite sure what trees I want to have in my forest, but I want to try to make the best looking forest that I possibly can. So that's what you need to know on your brushes and everything. So I have the big one for the backgrounds, and then the smaller ones for my detail. So I always want to do a background, and then I want to put whatever on top of the background that I want you to see in the foreground. So first is the background, and then it's the trees, and then anything else added afterwards will be also on top of the trees, like any weeds or any sticks or anything like that that's found on the forest floor, or even some rocks. You know, there's no telling what you can find on the forest floor. Even a log, maybe, a tree that had fallen down. There's so many things that you can put on a forest floor. So I will get started on that, and I will be right back with you to show you how far I've gotten. Okay, now if you've noticed on this canvas, I had put in different shades of brown and green for my floor bottom. And then up at the top, I've put in different shades of blues, and I'm going to add some white in there later on to put my clouds in. So this is how I'm going to start spreading out my canvas and making my sky, and I'm going to blend all of these colors. So let's start up here and just say we'll paint, put all these colors together, and we don't have to be too fussy because I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. Now the best thing to do when you're painting a canvas is to put gesso on it at first. I don't have gesso on this, but what gesso does is it makes the paint flow smoother throughout, and it helps you cover the canvas a lot easier so that you don't see canvas underneath your paint. So if I put a little bit of water on here, you're going to see some canvas because I don't have any gesso underneath. Now, if you don't have gesso, it's easy to make. I think there's a video online that type it in gesso, and it'll tell you how to make it. It's real easy. You got to use an all-purpose glue, like not the washable kind of glue, like what do you call it? Oh gosh, Elmer's or any of those glues. You have to make sure it's a all-purpose glue, and then you mix it with a little bit of water and a little bit of Floetrol, and you know, and go for there. So as you can see, my sky is coming out pretty good. I've got some dark blues in here and I've got some light blues in here. So I'm just going to, you know, cover my canvas as good as I can. And then I'm going to get a little bit of water so that I can spread it down into my green. So that's my sky so far. Okay, so I want you guys to get started on that, on your canvas at home. That's what you want to do. You want to start making a sky. Okay? And you can use your brush strokes any way you want. Some people like to splotch it on. Some people like to use sponges to put their sky on. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. Today, I'm just going to use brush strokes to do my sky. So that's my sky so far, and I'll be right back. We'll start doing the bottom. Okay, now as you can see, I've spread out some of my color. I rinsed my brush out in the water so that I can get most of the blue out of the brush, and then I started spreading the other colors on the bottom of my canvas so that I can get a variated different color. Okay, so there's my background. Okay, and it looks kind of plain right now, but my canvas is ready to begin with my forest. I got my sky and I got my ground, and my ground had all those colors in it, the different colors of brown and the different colors of green, so that, you know, sometimes the green shows through. Okay, now what I could do after I started the ground is I could start variegating, kind of making grass and stuff like that, and then put my trees over it, which is probably a good idea. I may want to do that next. So let me get a couple more colors on here, and we'll start doing some twigs and branches on the ground to start. And then I'll put my trees over that, and then we'll put some more twigs and branches on the ground so that we can make it look as real as possible. I don't paint realism, I paint impressionism. So as long as you get the impression of a forest, then I've done my job. Okay, I shall be back. As you can see, I have put in some very dark brown blobs here and there to start doing some of my background stuff. Now, one good way of doing backgrounds is using a brush like this. This is a fan brush. You can use it this way or this way. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to start spreading my little dark things to make it look like twigs and things. So first I'm going to do it lengthwise. Okay, so I'm just splattering them here and there. I'm not just, you know, putting them everywhere, but okay, so you can see that I have my branches just here and there and everywhere. Okay, now I'm not doing too much in the middle here because I want to wipe my brush off and take some of that paint off, is because I might want to make like a little pathway through the forest a little, so I might want to keep it open in the middle. And to do that, I kind of just spread the paint in a different direction. Okay, so all right, let me move this brush out of the way. Okay, now I can go further and I can add some green in there, some more green or some lighter brown, and I might do that later on when I get ready to, but that looks pretty good so far. So that's what I did. I added more background. Hopefully, yeah, let me spread that out a little bit. Yeah, change the angle of my brush, and, you know, kind of make stickers, bigger sticks and stuff like that. Now if I want, I can add a log in here. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So it's whatever you want to do. So this is what I want to do for now. So now I'm going to let my background dry and rinse my brush out. And I want to tell you folks, whenever you're done using your brushes, a lot of people don't realize you don't want to keep that paint in that brush. So you rinse it out as soon as you can and then dry it very good on a rag, a washcloth, or, you know, somewhere where you can keep it pretty well clean. Because when you go to use it next time, see how it's separated and it's white? It might dry like that and it might be harder to use. So always wash out your brushes. I'm done with this brush now. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to actually take this over to my sink and wash it out really good. Now, it's best to put a little bit of dish soap on your brush, because you don't really want to put a whole lot of paint down your sink, that's for sure. So I'm going to turn the water on. It's going to get a little noisy, and I'm going to use a little bit of Dawn dish soap on my brush, and I'm going to wash my brush. Get it all out of here as much as I can. Put it here. Okay, and then kind of tap it. And then I'm going to put some dish soap on it. Once I get most of the little paint out of here, whatever you do, don't leave it sitting in your sink because it'll stain your sink. You don't want to do that. Okay, so the water's running pretty clear through the brush. Time to put some soap on it. I'll be right back. Okay, I got some soap on it. Now I'm rinsing my brush out, making sure that all of the paint is out of my brush, so it'll be good as new to use on my next project. But it's very important to make sure you wash your brushes out. Now I always do that when I'm waiting for my painting to dry. Luckily with acrylics, they dry pretty fast. Okay, I think that's about clean, and now I'm going to empty my dirty water in the sink because it's only dirty water. It's not a lot of paint. And another mistake people make is they have paint left over on their palettes, and they try washing all that paint off of the palettes and putting it down the drain. You don't want to do that. That's not a good thing to do. What you need to do is get a paper towel and wipe down your surface first before washing it. And this way, when you wipe it down with a rag, okay, so if I was to clean paint out of here, say, I would use a rag or paper towel, and I need to wash this rag anyway. So I would take my rag, you know, because my rag I use for my paint. Okay, see my paint coming out of my rag. Okay, so if you have paint in your little palette, which is a very small palette, you would take your rag or your paper towel and, let me see, wring it out really good. And if there's any paint left in your palette, you know, you just take your rag, and paper towel is best though because you can throw it away. Take your rag and you clean out your little tray, and then you rinse out your rag again, and then you get your tray nice and clean. And then you're not dumping a whole pile of paint down the sink at one time. It's not a good idea. All right, so while I'm waiting for my paint to dry, I'm going to touch up the edges to make sure my canvas is already coated all the way around, so that if I hang it on the wall, it doesn't need a frame. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, well, it's almost dry, so let's go ahead and get started. I decided to use a different brush. I'm going to bring out my little rounded brush to start my first tree because I want the trees that are close to me a little bit larger. So I am going to take out a brown. Let's see, what kind of brown is that? Okay, burnt umber. All right, so let me get that. Well, as you see, I started to put a tree up in there, and I'm not happy with that brush. So I'm going to have to use a different brush, but I did start over here on this side as well. So that's what I've done so far. So here we go. We're going to try to make a couple more branches, see what happens. Okay, here I started to draw some of my sticks to get my forest going. We're getting there, not bad. So now we're going to start doing a little bit more detail work. And this is just the beginning of a forest. And let me continue to go on a little further and add some stuff to it so that you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. All right, be right back. Okay, as you can see, we're now putting in some other colors to make the trees look a little more realistic. And we're still working on this forest. And it's slowly starting to come about. A little more work on highlighting and darkening and adding bushes and whatever else I can add in here. I think I will add some leaves. I think I'm going to make them kind of brown. Make them look like there's leaves on the floor as well. But so far I'm kind of happy with it. I'm going to let that dry for a little bit before I put any more layers on my paintings. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, folks, I guess this is my idea of a forest. And I thought it'd come out pretty good. What do you think? See, that's all you have to do is make a lot of stick-looking things and kind of punch around on the bottom and put some bushes in, and I think it came out pretty good. I like it. Do you like it? Okay, well, that's a lesson that I gave everybody today, and this is what you can make your painting look like. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'm going to do another one in another canvas a little bit differently, but I'm going to put these pictures both together. So if you look really close, you can see that there's texture and brush strokes kind of pounded down. See, some from far away it looks really good, but when you get up close you can see actual stroking and creating trees. And they don't have to be perfect trees by any means, just the impression of a forest. And to me, that's my impression of a forest. Can you picture yourself standing in that forest? I think it came out really good. What do you think? Okay, folks, I will do another lesson probably sometime tomorrow, depending on my time. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you come back again soon. Thank you. And don't forget, always initial your paintings. You can't hardly tell those are my initials, but that's my initials. And again, I painted on a puppy pad, and it absorbs water and paint, and it keeps your surfaces clean. All right then. Happy painting.